Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about binding off. I'm going to show you how to bind off Purlwise and Knitwise. Here I have a little sample piece of Knit 3 Purl 3 ribbing. So let's get started and I'll show you how to bind off Knitwise. Now when you're binding off, you're always going to need 2 stitches on your right hand needle. So I have my first 3 stitches here are knit stitches, so I will knit the first one normally and knit the second one normally. So now I have 2 stitches on my right hand needle. Now I like to think, let me drop the yarn here just so that I can demonstrate a little easier. I like to think of binding off as positioning my needles the same way that they normally are when I either knit or purl. So in this case, since I'm binding off knitwise, I'm going to position my needles in the knitting position. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my left needle tip, push it through the front leg of the rightmost stitch, and as you can see, my needles are in the position they normally are when I am going to knit. The left needle is going through the rightmost stitch, and then the second stitch represents my wrap. All I'm going to do now is take the second stitch and pull it through like I normally do when I am knitting a stitch. Once I've got that stitch through, I'll pull off the old stitch like I do when I'm knitting. Let's do that again. I get left one stitch here, so I need to have another stitch in order to bind off again. So I'll go ahead and knit another stitch. Okay. Push my left needle tip through the rightmost stitch through the front. Here's my second stitch, which I'm going to treat as the wrap, and I'm just going to pull it through. And let me just roll under so you can see what's happening. I'm just pulling that through so that it is coming through the loop on the left needle as if I'm knitting. Pull that off, and that has been bound off. Okay, the next stitch here is a purl stitch, so I'm going to bring my yarn forward. I'm going to go through that stitch as if to purl, and I'm going to purl it. And now I have again 2 stitches on my right hand needle. Because this stitch is purled, I need to put my needles now into a purling position. So I am going to roll my right needle to the back of the work so that I can see the back of the 2 stitches. I'm going to take my left needle tip and push it through the back leg of the rightmost stitch. Now I'm going to bring my work so that the front of the work is facing me again. And as you can see, my needles are in the purling position. The right needle tip is in front. Here's a stitch that represents the wrap, and the right needle is going through the right loop as if to purl. Now all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this loop and I'm going to push it back. I'm going to scoop my right needle tip underneath the strand on the left needle as if to purl, take the stitch to the back, and then slide off the old stitch. There's another stitch bound off. The next stitch is a purl stitch again, so I will purl that. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to roll to the back. Out of the way. Roll to the back so you can see the back of the 2 stitches. Take the left needle tip, go through the back of the right stitch, the stitch to the right, roll back to the front, and then now your needles are in the purling position. Take this loop and just in your regular motion, however you normally purl a stitch, scoop that stitch back and off the left needle. And I'm left with one. Let's do that again. A lot of people find binding off Purlwise awkward at first, and it can be because you're kind of working with the back of the stitch, and Eventually you'll be able to just know where the back leg is without having to roll things forward. But in the beginning it's helpful just to see what's happening by rolling the work forward so that you can see the back leg. Get your needle in there, and then going back to the front, you're in the knitting position, or purling position rather, and then go ahead and take that second stitch and purl it back. Now here I am again with knit stitches, so I'm going to knit the next stitch, my yarn's in back, and I'm going to go through the front, Okay, my stitches are in the same position they normally are when I knit. I'm just going to take this stitch and pull it through like I do when I'm knitting. Okay. When you're knitting, just so that I can demonstrate what I mean by that, when you're knitting, you're going through the front leg like so, and you make your wrap. So you see what I have on the needle here? I have one stitch, I have a strand to the right, and my left needle is going through it, and I have a wrap on the back needle, and then I pull the wrap through. Same thing here. We're taking our left needle tip, going through the rightmost stitch, and now you see I've got the left needle tip is in front and it's going through the strand to the right, and there's a strand to the left. The strand to the left is what's getting pulled through, as if to knit, and take it off the left needle. Let's do that again. Knit another stitch. Here we are again, two strands on the right needle. Take the left needle, go through the front leg of the right loop, and then the second loop, that's our strand that we are going to knit through. So we're just going to pull that through, the same motion that you use when you're knitting. Pull it through. The next stitch is a purl stitch. So I'm going to bring the yarn forward, I'm going to purl that stitch, and now I'm ready to bind off. So I'm going to roll the work to the back, so I can see the back of the two stitches, take my left needle and go through the back leg of the rightmost stitch, and roll back to the front so that the front of the work is facing me. And now I'm going to take this left hand stitch, and the same motion that I use when I purl, I'm just going to take my right needle tip, scoop under the strand on the left needle, pull that wrap back, that stitch back, and slide off the left needle. And one stitch remains. I'm going to purl the next stitch. I'm going to do the same thing again. Roll to the back, go through the right stitch, through the back leg, come back to the front of the work facing me, and purl through that stitch. Purl the next stitch, do the same thing. Eventually you'll be able to, just with practice, not need to roll the work back. But until you get comfortable with that, it's a good idea to roll the work back so you can see where the stitch is. So here we are again, switching back to knitting. Knit the stitch, go through the front leg, left needle's in front, and pull the second stitch through as if to knit. Go through the front as if to knit. And the last one. Okay, so here I am at the end of the row and I have one last loop. What do I do with it? I'm going to cut our yarn 4 to 6 inches. Okay, there are two schools of thought here. You could take the yarn, the cut end, and push it through the remaining loop and then tighten it. And that's not a bad way to do this. I don't like to do it this way, however, because it leaves this weird ear to the side. So what I do is once I'm to the end, I cut my yarn, and then I just keep pulling the needle up until that cut end comes through, and then I tighten it. Now what does happen with this method is we have this little wonky elongated stitch here. So let me show you what to do with that. Take your tapestry needle. Okay, here I am with my elongated stitch here. And what you'll do is you'll go underneath one strand and come up directly between the two in the center. And then come over on the opposite side and go underneath both strands and pull through. And what that does is it twists it so that it very much looks like the rest of your edge there. And you don't get a wonky stitch hanging off the side. And you'll be able to weave in this end much easier. I'll just pull it back to the back there. So binding off in pattern. Now, being that binding off purlwise is fairly awkward, I must admit, so why can't we just bind off knitwise, which is easier? If your work was entirely in knit, that would be fine. You'd still be binding off in pattern because you'd be knitting every stitch. The reason that you want to bind off in pattern, knit stitches bound off knitwise, purl stitches bound off purlwise, is that if you don't do that, you're going to have a significant difference in your knitting. Here's a piece, knit 3, purl 3 ribbing, and I bound off all knitwise. And so it's very clear that the bound off edge flares out significantly compared to the cast on edge. And again, here's another piece, bound off in pattern, and the bound off edge matches the cast on edge much better. There's the two pieces again. So if you were making, let's say, something like a scarf, probably you would want both ends of your scarf to be fairly equal. You wouldn't want one end of the scarf necessarily to flare out this way. And the same with, even if you were making sweater pieces and you were going to sew this edge, you would want to make sure that, this was a shoulder for example, that it pulled in. You wouldn't want these openings towards the top of your, where your seam line is going to be. It would look a little awkward. You would want straight lines. Okay, that is binding off in pattern. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section. If you're a student that has taken one of my classes, you have my direct contact information. You can email me or call me with questions. I'm always happy to help. If you want updates on new videos, please subscribe. And also you can like my Facebook page. The link is in the information section, and where I have additional information about knitting, patterns, and dates and details about classes. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.